Hi everyone, today I'm testing the Kia Niro plug-in hybrid. Thanks go to Norfolk Motor Group in Norwich for letting me test drive this car, and they were very keen to see my Kona Electric. They hadn't actually seen one in the flesh before. So I'm testing the plug-in hybrid because there isn't any e-Niros in the UK. So as I did with the Kona, I've got to test the petrol version or the hybrid version and try and determine from it what I think of the car and how appropriate it is. So for me, the plug-in hybrid here is a very similar specification to the e-Niro, so it should be quite comparable, both size-wise, comfort-wise, specification-wise, look and feel of the car. Yes, there are some specific differences to the actual e-Niro, and yes, of course, I've got to ignore the drivetrain, ignore that there's a petrol engine in there. So I've got to understand the differences between the cars, take those into account, and not be biased at all. That's my hardest job here, not to be biased because I'm a Kona owner. I'm looking at this from a fresh, unbiased perspective that I'm interested in buying the Kia e-Niro. So there are two sides to this video that I want to get across. One is the on-paper differences between them, the specification differences, and then also the look and the feel and what I've experienced from driving my own Kona to driving this plug-in Niro. Okay, so this is what I believe is the specification differences between the Niro EV and the Kona EV at premium SE specification, top of the range for the Kona. The e-Niro is £2,150 cheaper than the Kona Premium SE, and the Kona price there does not include the two-tone paint, but both prices do include the plug-in car grant. Performance is very similar between the two because it is the same motor and battery configuration, but look at the 0 to 60 times, slightly different. One's measuring 0 to 60, the other 0 to 62. Range is slightly better on the e-Niro, but drag coefficient is identical between the two. Efficiency figures of combined efficiency on kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers shows slightly better for the Kona. So how can that be if the e-Niro's got a better range? And the curb weight is higher as well, 127 kilos higher. Towing weight is 0 because neither are authorised for towing. The battery size at 180 amp hours is the same, running at 356 volts. The wheels are 7J 17-inch, tyres 215/55s, all the same. Rear suspension is both multi-link. The Kia has a 7-year, 100,000 mile warranty. The Hyundai has the 5-year, 125,000 mile warranty. But the drivetrain is warranted for 8 years, including the battery on the Hyundai. The dimensions, the height is exactly the same between the two, the length 195mm longer on the Niro, wheelbase the 100mm difference, and the width just 5mm wider on the e-Niro. Boot size is an important one to many people. The e-Niro has a larger boot, that's for certain, but the plug-in hybrid version that I tested actually has less capacity in litres than the Kona. So both have heated seats, only the Kona has ventilated seats though. Both have got the heated steering wheel, essential in the winter, but passenger seat adjustment on the e-Niro, I believe it's manual, the same as it is on the plug-in hybrid. On the Kona, it's electrically operated seats on the passenger side as well. So some of the features like lane keep assist, smart cruise control, driver assistance, vehicle stability, they're all the same. They're available on both cars. The speed limiter, the LED rear lights, the LED side lights, all exactly the same. So there's a lot of features that are identical between the two. Headlights, they're different between the two. Halogen on the e-Niro, LED on the Kona. But because of that, the e-Niro has fog lights. The Kona doesn't have fog lights at all. The e-Niro also has mood lighting inside, and the Kona doesn't have that. Kona has a heads-up display, e-Niro doesn't. The hi-fi systems are different. One is made by JBL in the Kia, and in the Hyundai it's a Krell system. Both have Bluetooth, both have 2 USB ports, both can integrate your mobile phone to the car, both have wireless charging for your mobile phones. Both have the good regen paddles with the same number of options, 3 levels of regen and coasting. Auto regen in the Kona Electric, that does not appear to be in the e-Niro, and that's where the Kona uses radar to detect things ahead and adjusts the regen automatically and brakes for you. The e-Niro though has CGC and PEC. These are coasting guidance control and predictive energy control. So it's basically looking at sat-nav, and when you have a navigation set, it's going to give you audible alerts and visual alerts to tell you when to take your foot off the accelerator and coast. The forward collision assistance system on the eNiro is worded differently. It appears to work differently to the Kona. And on the Kona, you've got rear cross alert and blind spot detection. Those two safety features aren't available on the eNiro. I actually like both of those. I would have expected the charging times to be identical for these cars, but they're specified differently. On the granny cable, the eNiro charges 2 hours faster, and on a 7.2 kilowatt home charger, 15 minutes longer to charge to 100%, but rapid charging to 80% specified as exactly the same time. I wonder why AC charging times are different, but DC charging times are the same. Right, onto the test drive then. What did I actually notice that was different? The shape of the dashboard was one of the things that I noticed to start with. The eNiro was flatter from the top of the instrument cluster going towards the windscreen, where in the Kona it's more graduated and sloped, so you'd actually be able to put more things on the top. Surprisingly, the 5mm extra width in the car was actually noticeable. I did seem to have more space between me and the door and me and Susan in the passenger seat, so that did surprise me. It was actually noticeable. It felt more open and spacious in the eNiro, whereas in the Kona it feels more enclosed and more cockpit-like. The steering wheel in the Niro felt a little bit smaller in my hands than on my Kona, but one of the big things I noticed straight away was the seats. The seats felt softer in leather and softer in the foam, and definitely on the side bolsters on the side of the seats there's less support. I could move around a lot more easily in the seat, where the Kona holds you in more. So for cornering, that's going to help holding you in more on the Kona. But if you're a bigger person than me, then actually you might not find it comfortable in the Kona, whereas the eNiro would definitely be okay. It's more soft and a flatter seating position. Susan noticed instantly as well there wasn't such a frigid air feeling coming from the windscreen area. She notices it a lot in the passenger side of the Kona, that when there's cold air blowing, the ventilation is on at all, you get a cold air draft over the front of you quite prominently. Now that could be on the proximity to the windscreen. In the Kona you're further forward. In the Niro, you seem to be sat a little bit further back and the dash is further away, so it could be that ventilation is more comfortable. In the Niro, the eNiro and the Kona are both going to have very similar dash displays. There's a lot of displays that are similar between the two of them. In this plug-in hybrid, I found it a little bit busy, shall we say, in the dash. I got to grips with it, I understood what everything was telling me and where it was, but it wasn't as simple as in the Kona. So when the eNiro comes along and the dashes are very similar with the different sport modes of eco, normal and sport, normal being the same as comfort on the Kona, those displays I think are going to be very, very similar. Material-wise on the inside, yeah, it's softer materials in the Kia. The dashboard, it's definitely soft where it's hard in the Kona. The centre storage area and some of the door cards have leather on them where it's plastic in the Kona. So it does give a more premium feel in the Kia. It's very dark black, dashboard and details in the Kia, but it's more dark grey in the Kona, and that does make a difference. It's definitely a lighter cabin and lighter area in the Kona as a result. More spacious and airy in the Kia. It does feel more cockpit-like, as I said, in the Kona, but definitely a bit darker because of the dashboard, etc. in the Kia. The different materials, yeah, it's a greater mixture. There's more going on. There's more contrasts of materials, even though they're softer. The seats, especially themselves, they felt softer leather. The Kona felt more hard. Is it because one's actually natural leather and one's synthetic leather? I don't know. I don't know what the difference is. As well as some of the materials being softer in the Niro, I'd also say some of the controls feel a little softer as well. In the Kona, they click and clunk a bit more firmly and precisely. They feel a little softer in the Niro. One of the things I really dislike with the Kona is the vents, the air vents. They don't have a separate on-off control. The Kia does. The Kia without a doubt has better vents. They might be better positioned as well, but they operate better. You've got left and right controls that are independent of the on-off control. One thing I didn't like in the Niro was the panel, the flat plastic hard panel that's between the two air vents on the passenger side. Didn't seem to do anything, and it was quite obvious. It didn't seem to be integrated very well. The Kona, I think, has a more attractive integration of the dashboard in that area. Legroom and driving position I found pretty similar. I actually felt I was sitting slightly lower down in the Niro than the Kona, but other than that, very, very similar. The centre console didn't get in the way, just as it doesn't on the Kona. I found those to be exactly the same. The media display screens are both the same size, but because the Kia's is inside the dash and the Kona's is more elevated with a larger surround around it, the Hyundai's actually seems larger and it is positioned in a slightly easier position to see, even though, aesthetically, it actually looks better inside the dash on the Kia. One of the features of the eNiro that sounds really attractive to me is the CGC and PEC. The Kona doesn't have a lot of systems that help you with efficiency, so the Kia sounds like with the coasting guidance control and the predictive energy control systems, it's linked into SatNav, it knows when a corner or a junction's coming up, and it's predicting the amount of time you need to slow down. So it's giving you a light and an audible warning to lift off the throttle and coast or gain regen. Auto regen on the Kona, well, that wasn't necessarily specified as a feature. I only found that in the manuals when I actually got the car, so just because I can't find it in the specification for the eNiro doesn't mean it actually hasn't got it. So it'll be interesting when we get the car whether it really has that feature as well, or is auto regen something on the Kona and CGC and PEC is that the opposing features over on the eNiro. That I just really don't know and I can't confirm at the moment. Whilst comparing the two cars, we have to be quite careful of wording because there's a set of wording with the eNiro which says battery heating system. It's designed to insulate and warm up the battery when plugged in, minimising adverse effects of cold temperatures. Well, that sounds brilliant. It sounds like it's going to do more than the Kona and pre-warming the battery for best efficiency. But it doesn't actually give you the parameters, so maybe it is exactly the same as winter mode, where it only warms the battery when it's -10 or more. We don't know. So although the wording sounds really, really attractive and interesting that it could be a great feature for efficiency, I don't know whether it's true or whether it's not. So again, we'll have to wait until we get the car. The ride quality in this Niro was really, really good, but on one side it's really, really soft and comfortable. On the other side, it's quite soft and a little bit wallowy round corners. With the extra weight and the softer ride, I definitely think there's a difference between the Niro and the Kona as to sportiness. Kona's more sporty, Niro's more comfortable. The eNiro has the same 3 drive modes that the Kona Electric has. So it has Eco mode, where basically you've got some of the torque is reduced and it softens the throttle response and the steering is more relaxed. Or you've got normal mode in the eNiro. That's going to be the same as comfort mode. That's more direct steering and direct throttle responses. And then the sport mode, that's full power, full acceleration and enhanced throttle responses. So that sounds very, very similar to the Kona. Whether the parameters are any different, we don't know, but it sounds pretty much the same. In full electric mode, this Niro was very, very quiet inside. Without a doubt, I think it's a quieter cabin than the Kona. Now, is that because of the tyres? I'm not certain, but I think there was more wind noise in the Niro, but less tyre noise. This plug-in hybrid had Michelin's on. I mentioned earlier that the forward collision system seemed different or sounded different in the description between the Niro and the Kona. Basically, in the Kia documentation, it describes that the forward collision system is split into 3 main categories. For city driving at low speed in an urban environment, it works up to 13 miles an hour. Interurban, being the second category, works 31 to 50 miles an hour. And then the third category is pedestrian recognition, which is up to 44 miles an hour. And that includes looking out for cyclists as well. So I don't see that documentation and that description with the Kona, which makes me think, given as well that we have no blind spot detection or no rear cross alert, that the safety features are definitely unique and different between the two cars. So the forward collision system, although it's working, specified differently on the eNiro to the Kona. That's my belief. Again, with the wording, it's really hard to work out exactly what is and what isn't different, because they haven't given you enough details and worded in the same way to compare precisely between the two. The boot lid on the Niro opens higher up, and therefore people that are 6 foot tall or more probably won't bump their head on the Niro, where they might on the Kona. For those that have followed my channel before and have seen my videos on the Kona's boot lid, I'm not very happy that it actually fits very well. Even with the adjustment that we've been able to make, it's improved, but it doesn't fit very well. Now the Niro, I tested it in the showroom. It shut first time every time. It was a really good fit, but more importantly, the weight of the lid was really good, so that under its own weight closing, it closed every time first time with very little effort. You definitely didn't have to slam it like you do on the Kona. So, Hyundai, you need to learn from that one. Testing the JBL stereo, I did find that there was a lot more treble coming from the eNiro at the front of the car, so I had to change the balance to the rear speakers a lot more than I do in the Kona. I also found that you could increase the volume, the treble and the bass a lot more to get the sound that you're looking for. The settings didn't need to go as high in the Kona. The biggest difference though is the bass. The Krell system in the Kona has a lot more punch and is a lot clearer, so on that count I prefer the Krell. In summary then, the eNiro is going to be a bigger car. There's going to be more boot space, legroom in the back for your passengers, there's more of that too. But handling's going to be more comfortable and soft in the eNiro. It's definitely more sporty in the Kona. Interior, it's blacker and darker in the Kia. The Hyundai has lighter grey interior, but look at the accents here on the seats. You've got blue accents, similar to what you used to get in the petrol Konas, but you don't get in the electric version of the Kona. I do prefer the drive selector in the Kia. Instead of buttons in the Kona, you've got a dial for selecting reverse, neutral and drive, but also it's suspended so that you get more center console space underneath and you can access it better, which you can't in the Kona. The coloured accents, they continue on the outside too, and these help differentiate between the different hybrid models and the full electric version, but I'm starting to notice a theme here. The design of both the outside and the inside of the Niro just seems a little bit more busy, a bit more complex than the Kona. The Kona's lines seem more smoothly drawn. There's less going on. You have to look more closely at the detail to notice it. Where in the Niro, it's a little bit more full on, the design, and there's more materials being used. In my opinion, the design styling and the interior and how the materials are mixed, I think there are some similarities here to Nissan and the Leaf. So Leaf owners are probably really going to like the Kia Niro more than the Hyundai. That's my opinion. Just took some shots here of the actual seats so you can see what the materials are like here in the plug-in hybrid version of the Niro. And as you can see, the stitching and the materials look really nice. So, did I place a deposit for the eNiro? Well, the answer is no, I haven't yet, and that's based on the handling. The big thing for me was the handling and the supportiveness of the seats. I really like that in the Kona, and if they're not similar in the eNiro, then it's not the car for me. But doesn't mean it's not the car for everyone, because this was a great car that I tested, the plug-in hybrid. The actual drivetrain, didn't like it at all, but as soon as it goes electric, it'll be brilliant. Thank you for watching as always. I hope you enjoyed this video and the information was useful to you if you are deciding between the Kona and the Niro. But I really enjoyed the test drive and I really enjoyed understanding what the Niro is going to be like, and I can't wait to see the eNiro as soon as it's available on the roads. Take care for now and see you again soon. Bye bye.